You know the walk. You're maybe 10, 15 minutes into your morning. You've had your coffee. Good coffee, bad coffee, gas station coffee, doesn't matter. And then, somewhere between the second sip and the moment you sit down to actually start your day, your body sends you a message. Not a polite one. Not a hey, whenever you get a chance kind of message. A now message. And you get up, and you do the walk, and you and I both know exactly where that walk ends. Here's what I love about this. Millions of people do this every single morning. Whole civilizations run on it, and almost none of them know why it happens. They just assume. They go, oh, it's the caffeine, nod like they've solved it, and go on with their lives. And that's the thing I want to talk you out of today. Because the caffeine answer, the one everybody's so sure about, it's wrong. Not kind of incomplete wrong. Actually, provably caught red-handed wrong. And once you see how it's wrong, you're going to look at your morning cup a little differently. Maybe a little suspiciously. Which honestly, it deserves. So stick with me, because this gets weirder than you think. There's a moment coming up, about a third of the way through this, where I tell you a single detail about the timing of all this. And I promise you it's going to short-circuit your brain a little. It did mine. But let's start where everybody starts. Let's start with the obvious answer, so we can enjoy watching it fall apart. The story everyone tells themselves is simple. Caffeine is a stimulant. You know this. It's why you drink the stuff. It wakes up your brain, it speeds up your heart a little, it makes you feel like a functional human being instead of a sleep-deprived raccoon. So the logic goes, if caffeine stimulates everything else, it probably stimulates your gut too. Wakes up the plumbing, case closed. Pat yourself on the back, finish your coffee. And look, I get why that answer is so popular. It's clean, it's tidy, it connects two things you already believe coffee has caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant and it wraps them up with a bow. It feels true. The problem is that scientists, being the wonderful killjoys that they are, actually went and tested it. And the way they tested it is so simple, so obvious, that once you hear it, you'll wonder why nobody told you sooner. They gave people decaf. That's it. That's the whole trap. If caffeine is the reason coffee makes you go, then take the caffeine out, and the effect should vanish, right? Decaf should just be a warm brown drink with no consequences. A coffee-shaped placebo. Back in 1990, a group of researchers did exactly this. They rounded up a bunch of healthy volunteers, and they hooked some of them up to equipment that could actually measure what was happening down in the lower part of the colon. The real plumbing, not how do you feel, but actual physical measurable muscle activity. And then they gave them coffee, regular coffee, decaf coffee, and plain hot water as a control to make sure it wasn't just, warm liquid doing the trick. Here's what they found. The regular coffee lit up the colon, no surprise there, but the decaf lit it up too, same response, same window, and the plain hot water did basically nothing. So it's not the temperature, it's not just a drink, and this is the part that matters, it is very clearly not just the caffeine. Because they pulled the caffeine out, and the effect stayed right where it was, waving at them. Take a second with that. The number one suspect, the guy everybody's been blaming for years, has an airtight alibi. Decaf commits the exact same crime with none of the caffeine in its system. If this were a detective show, this is the part where the smug detective leans back and goes, and that is why it couldn't have been the caffeine. And everybody in the room gasps. Now, I want to be fair to caffeine here, because I'm not a monster. It's not that caffeine does nothing. Later research, in the late 90s, measured this more precisely, and caffeinated coffee did give the colon a bigger kick than decaf, something like 20-odd% stronger. So caffeine is contributing. It's turning the volume up. But here's the point. Decaf already had the volume on. Caffeine isn't the thing playing the music. It just makes it louder. The song was already going without it. So if it's not the caffeine or not mostly the caffeine, what on earth is it? Okay, this is the part I warned you about. This is the detail that broke my brain, and I need you to actually sit with it, because it's the whole key to the mystery. Remember that 1,990 study? When they measured how fast the colon responded to coffee? The answer was 4 minutes. 4 minutes. In some people, the plumbing kicks into gear about 4 minutes after that first sip. Now let me ask you something. Where do you think your coffee is 4 minutes after you drink it? Because I'll tell you where it is not. It is not in your colon. It's not even close to your colon. 4 minutes after you swallow, that coffee is basically still sitting in your stomach, maybe just starting to think about the small intestine. Food and drink take hours to travel all the way down to the far end of your gut where all the action is happening. We're talking like a full day, sometimes more, for the whole journey. So there is no possible way that the coffee itself has physically arrived at the scene of the crime in 4 minutes. It hasn't traveled there. It can't have. So sit with the weirdness of that. The coffee is triggering a reaction in a part of your body that the coffee has not reached. It's like your doorbell ringing before anyone's walked up to your door, and that right there tells you what's really going on. Because if the coffee hasn't physically arrived, then it can't be the coffee doing the pushing. Something else is doing the pushing. The coffee isn't the delivery truck. The coffee is the phone call. Let me explain what I mean by that, because this is genuinely one of the coolest bits of wiring in your entire body, and almost nobody knows they've got it. Your gut is not one long dumb tube where stuff just falls through by gravity. It's more like a series of rooms that talk to each other, and they gossip constantly. When something arrives in the top of the system, that stomach doesn't just quietly get to work. It sends out an alert. It basically tells the rest of the digestive tract, hey, incoming, everybody get ready. We've got new material coming down the line, so somebody needs to make room. And making room means exactly what you think it means. The far end of your colon starts contracting, squeezing, moving things along, clearing out the old to make space for the new. That's the message. That's the whole conversation. Food goes in the top, and almost immediately a signal shoots down to the bottom saying, essentially, clear the runway. This whole thing has a name, and it's the least glamorous name in all of biology. It's called the gastrocolic reflex. Gastro for stomach, colic for colon. The stomach to colon reflex. And you use it every day whether you notice it or not. It's a big part of why so many people need to go shortly after a meal. You eat, your stomach fills, it fires off the signal, and your colon perks up like a dog that just heard the treat bag open. So now the 4-minute thing makes total sense, doesn't it? The coffee doesn't need to travel anywhere. It just needs to land in your stomach and set off the alarm. The stomach places the phone call, the colon picks up, and the whole thing happens at the speed of a nerve signal, which is to say, basically instantly. That's your 4 minutes. That's the ringing doorbell with nobody at the door. It was never the coffee arriving. It was the coffee announcing itself. But, and you knew there'd be a but, because I've got that look on my face, this raises a new question. If it's really just the stomach reacting to something showing up, then why coffee? Why does coffee specifically ring that bell so hard? Because plain water clearly didn't do it. So there's something about coffee in particular that your stomach really responds to. Something in the actual chemistry of the stuff. And this is where coffee stops being an innocent little morning beverage and starts looking like the sophisticated chemical operation it actually is. Here's a fact that surprises most people. Coffee is not simple. We treat it like it's just caffeine water, but a single cup of coffee contains hundreds of different chemical compounds. Hundreds. It's one of the most chemically complicated things you'll put in your body all day. And a bunch of those compounds are biologically busy little troublemakers. The main suspects the researchers keep circling back to are a family of compounds called chlorogenic acids. You don't need to memorize the name. Just know they're in there. They're in there in big quantities. And crucially, they don't care whether your coffee is caffeinated or not. They're in the decaf too, which is exactly the kind of suspect we're looking for, right? Someone who was at both crime scenes. And what these compounds appear to do is nudge your stomach into producing more acid. More acid means your stomach ramps up, gets churny and active, and an active stomach is a stomach that's very enthusiastically sending signals down the line. There's also another compound in coffee with a name so long I'm not even going to make you sit through it that seems to do something similar. The details are still being worked out, and honestly, scientists will admit there's more to learn here. But the theme is consistent. Coffee is chemically provocative. It walks into your stomach and starts poking things. There's more. Coffee also seems to trigger the release of certain hormones in your gut messenger chemicals that your body uses to coordinate digestion. One of them essentially tells your system to get moving, to increase the traffic through your intestines. So coffee isn't just poking your stomach directly, it's also getting your body to send out its own internal let's go hormones, which crank up the whole assembly line. It's stacking effect on top of effect. And then there's the sheer acidity of the stuff. Coffee is acidic. Your body notices acidity. That's another little jolt, another nudge, another reason your stomach goes, okay, something significant just happened up here, better tell downstairs. So put it all together and you get this picture. Coffee lands in your stomach. Its acids and its compounds start stimulating things. Your stomach produces more acid and gets active. Hormones get released that tell your gut to speed up. And all of that fires off the gastrocolic reflex, the phone call, which reaches down to your colon and says, in no uncertain terms, wrap it up down there. All of this in the time it takes you to read a couple of text messages. And notice I have not mentioned caffeine in about 2 minutes, because caffeine's just along for the ride. It's a passenger. It's not driving the car. Now, I can hear some of you. That's fascinating and everything, but coffee has literally never done this to me. And you're not lying? Some of you drink coffee all day and your gut just shrugs. So let's talk about why this happens to some people and not others, because the answer is genuinely interesting and, if I'm honest, a little bit funny. Not everybody has this reaction. When researchers actually asked people, only about a third said coffee gives them the urge. 1 in 3. So if you're sitting there thinking this whole video is nonsense, coffee does nothing to me, congratulations. You're just in the other 2/3, and your gut is apparently unbothered by all of this. And here's a detail I find delightful. In that original study, the people who did react, they had a name for them. Responders, which sounds like a superhero team, were much more likely to be women. Significantly more. Why? Not fully settled. Could be hormonal, could be differences in how the gut is wired, could be a mix. But the pattern shows up. So if this is very much your experience and it seems to hit you harder than it hits, say, the guy next to you who inhales espresso like it's water, you're not imagining it. Your plumbing is just more responsive to the message. But now I have to tell you the mischievous part. The part where coffee has frankly been taking credit for something it only half did. Think about when you drink your coffee. For most people, it's first thing in the morning. And here's the thing about your body first thing in the morning. Your gut is already primed to go. It's not caffeine, it's not chlorogenic acid, it's your own internal body clock. Your digestive system naturally ramps up its activity when you wake up. It gets noticeably more active in the morning than it was while you were asleep. Your body basically schedules a morning clean out as part of the daily plan. It's on the calendar. So picture the scene. You wake up. Your gut is already loading up, already getting ready to do its thing, purely because of the time of day. And what do? Right at that exact moment, you pour a hot, acidic, chemically loaded beverage directly into the system. You show up to a party that was already starting and take credit for bringing the music. So some mornings, and I can't tell you which mornings, this is between you and your colon, the coffee genuinely triggered it. And some mornings, you would have needed to go anyway, right around then, and the coffee just happened to be holding the door when it did. Coffee's been standing next to the crime for years going, yeah, that was me. And honestly, sometimes it was. And sometimes it just has really good timing. It's the friend who takes credit for the plan everyone was already going to do. That combination, by the way, is probably why the morning coffee effect feels so reliable to the people who get it. You've got your body's natural morning rhythm and the coffee's chemical kick landing at the exact same time, reinforcing each other. Two forces pointing the same direction. No wonder it feels like clockwork. Okay, so let's zoom out because I want you to actually walk away with the full picture locked in. Here's the real story of why coffee makes you go start to finish. It is not, primarily, the caffeine. We know that because decaf does the same thing, and it does it fast. It happens in about 4 minutes, which is way too fast for the coffee to have physically traveled anywhere, which means the coffee itself isn't doing the pushing, it's sending a signal. That signal is the gastrocolic reflex, your stomach's built-in alarm that tells your colon to make room whenever something significant arrives. Coffee sets off that alarm especially hard because it's chemically loud, full of acids and compounds that stir up your stomach and get your gut zone, get moving, hormones flowing. And then, on top of all that, you usually drink it in the morning, right when your body was already planning to go anyway. So it's a chemical trigger, a nervous system reflex, and good timing, all shaking hands at once. The coffee's not a laxative in the way you imagined. It's an instigator. It doesn't do the deed. It walks into the room, stirs everyone up, points at your colon, and goes, you know what to do, and then it steps back and lets your own body handle the rest. Which, when you think about it, is so much more interesting than caffeine makes you poop. Your morning coffee is basically hacking a reflex you didn't know you had. Now, quick real talk because I'd be a bad friend if I didn't say it. For the vast majority of people, this is completely normal. It's not a problem. It's not a sign anything's wrong. It's just your body being your body. A responsive gut is a healthy gut doing its job. So if coffee sends you to the bathroom every morning, you don't need to fix that, and you definitely don't need to quit coffee over it. Enjoy it. It's part of the routine now. The only time it's worth paying attention is if something actually changes or feels off, like it suddenly comes with real pain, or you notice anything unusual, or your normal pattern shifts in a way that sticks around and worries you. That's not a panic thing. That's just a mention it to an actual doctor thing, because your gut is genuinely one of the best messengers your body has, and it's worth listening to when it says something new. But routine morning coffee doing its routine morning thing, that's just the machine running the way it's supposed to. So here's where I leave you. Tomorrow morning, you're going to do the walk. You know the one. And this time, when it happens, you're going to know the truth. You're going to know it wasn't really the caffeine. You're going to know your coffee never even made it to the scene. It just made a phone call. You're going to know your own body had half the job done before the mug was even full. And you're going to know that you, unlike literally everyone else in that coffee shop, actually understand the strange, fast, clever little chain reaction happening inside you. You're welcome for that, by the way. You're going to be unbearable at brunch now. Somebody's going to say, this coffee goes right through me. And you're going to have to physically restrain yourself from launching into the whole gastrocolic reflex speech. Do it anyway. That's what I do. Now go drink your coffee. You've earned it. And, well, you know how the rest goes.